What would happen if our moon suddenly disappeared? Global tsunamis decimate coastlines around the world as ocean waters surge toward the gravitational pull of the sun. Sea currents shift, changing weather patterns and destroying food supplies. Eventually, Earth's axis tilts wildly, turning the poles into tropical jungles and the equator into frigid wastelands. New species emerge while others go extinct. Our planet becomes unrecognizable the day the moon was gone. The moon is a barren, lifeless rock, but it plays a surprisingly important role in the story of life on Earth. How important? Let's remove it from the sky and find out. Strange things start to happen almost immediately. People on the coast are the first to notice the change.
This would probably create something like a tsunami, a tidal wave, which would be very dramatic indeed.
It's well known that the moon controls Earth's tides. As it orbits around us, its mass tugs our oceans toward it, causing a tidal bulge on the side of the planet nearest the moon. And through a strange quirk of gravitational physics, it forms a second bulge on the side farthest away from the moon. Few people realize the sun also plays a role in governing the tides. But because it's 400 times farther from us than the moon, its gravitational influence on the oceans is relatively small, about 1/3 of the total effect. But with the moon out of the picture, the sun is now in control.
But with the moon up here, its gravitational pull is sort of pulling a dome of water up. There's a big sort of bulge. Then imagine you just snipped the cord and the water had to flow back out.
The water rushes toward the gravity of the sun in a massive global tsunami. The force of the waves depends on where the moon is in relation to the sun when it disappears.
If the moon vanished at full moon or at new moon, that's when the moon is lined up with the Earth and the sun.
The lunar tidal bulges would shrink to solar tidal bulges in the same spots, and the extra water from the lunar bulges would quickly flow to other parts of the globe. But there's an even more dramatic possibility.
If the moon vanished when it's at quarter moon, either first quarter or last quarter, then the moon's tidal bulge is not in the same place as the sun's tidal bulge. And so I expect you would see a very quick motion of Earth's oceans from the lunar tidal bulge to the solar tidal bulge.
Some experts believe this more drastic lateral shift in ocean water would blast coastal spots around the world. The powerful pulses would be similar to the 2004 Southeast Asian tsunami, except the waves would cause even more death and destruction, since they'd be worldwide. Two massive east to west and west to east waves would be initiated on opposite ends of the Earth. A seaside city like Miami would be pummeled by a 50-foot wall of water that would destroy most coastal buildings and sweep across the entire width of southern Florida, putting 9 million lives at risk. But with such a titanic shift of water, could there be other unpredictable results?
One can imagine that perhaps the east-west or north-south motion of that water could disrupt the currents. The Gulf Stream carries warm water from the Caribbean up to Great Britain, and it helps keep Great Britain a lot warmer than it otherwise would be, considering how far north it is. Climate is a very delicate system, and you tweak one part of it and another part responds. And then one can imagine that food productivity and the overall way of life would be dramatically altered if it were cooler in Northern Europe. The Sahara Desert is a great example of some place that used to be green and lush and now is completely a desert. Having changes with climate can really have impact on our survival.
But the biggest impact on our planet would be the changes to Earth's steady tilt, a unique feature that gives us our 4 regular seasons.
The thing that locks our planet's tilt to about 23.5 degrees so consistently is the presence of the moon that acts as a large stabilizer. If we don't have the moon anymore, we may get into a regime that's much more like Mars. And Mars, instead of being at a stable 23.5 degrees, goes through wild variations of the tilt, varying from maybe as low as 15 degrees on the low side, all the way up to something like about 75, 80 degrees on the high side.
Without the moon, our axis begins fluctuating erratically over several 100,000 years. The gravitational pull from other planets in the solar system starts wreaking havoc on Earth. Our stable seasons shift dramatically as different parts of our planet tilt radically toward the sun during some periods and away at others.
As soon as you get rid of the moon, you're stuck with this radical tilting of the axis back and forth, and therefore radical climate changes that don't happen today.
Earth becomes a very strange world as mankind struggles to adapt and survive.